Hi and welcome to a new video. Now it's the first one I've posted for a week or so, and I'm very apologetic towards you for that lot. Because like we all know, family problems and things like that take up a lot of our time. It doesn't matter who you are, we all have them. So there's a few things going on sort of that side of things, so it's sort of slowed me down tremendously actually. So I do apologise for that. I did go out to make a video the other day on some new stuff, but it absolutely poured it down. So I decided not to bother. Now, the Q&A thing, quite a few people came in on that one. And there's a few here. Now, one of the guys that sent me a question was, and I can't find the question, but he wanted to know the difference. You know, he was saying he'd heard that Adria weren't as good as they used to be, and Hobby were better. What did I think? Well, look, for what it's worth, is that I think since Trigano took over Adria, I think Adria's quality actually has improved. I think the finish is definitely better. The designs are still that Adria feel about it, there's no doubt about it. They're very still much an Adria Caravan. The new Alberti range I think is drastically improved. I still like to see a bigger front window on there. And there's only down to 3 layouts, which is rather a shame. Now when it comes to hobbies, the problem with hobbies of course is that there's not a lot of dealers around. And that's really always been the case. Now hobbies started coming into the UK, let me get me thinking, Capon, around about mid-70s I think it was. But not in great numbers. It wasn't really till the 80s that hobbies started to come in. And I mean, hobbies were always seen as a big German, strong-built touring caravan. And over the years, I mean, their layout amount was phenomenal. I mean, it was the same with Tabert when they started coming to the UK in around about 1967-68. They were actually introduced through a caravan dealership called Kingsford Caravan, no longer around anymore. They were based down in the Midlands. And then Casalt group, who of course made Alberti Caravans, they imported them for a while. A lot of people imported Taberts and dropped them and what have you, and then they'd come and go. And Taberts were pretty popular in all fairness. Hobbies were the same. But again, there was still an acquired taste. So when the market hardened up again in the 90s, hobbies really didn't sell very well in the UK. What do I think of hobbies now? Come on, fast forward, wind. I think they're a small looking caravan. I mean, this chap, and I do apologise, I cannot remember your name. I can't find for the message you sent me. And he said about the stucco effect on the sides. And that has been something that Continental Caravan manufacturers have been using for many years. Knaus still use that on the Weinsbergs, or they did until the last couple of years, gone to smooth aluminium now. But hobbies still have that stucco effect, and it is very dated. You know, the UK buyer doesn't really want that effect anymore. Hobbies are very glitzy, I think, inside. I think they look very smart and what have you. But what I do think is that the only thing that would put me off buying a hobby is there's very few UK dealers around, and the models are limited on the UK market. They do cater for the showman type of tourer, and also sort of seasonal pitch. Between the two, Trigano built Adria's hobbies. Well, hobbies sell incredibly well in Europe, there's no doubt about it, as do Adria. Now the problem is, of course, is what you're going to choose, and Adria's are probably would be my age. That's my personal thing, and again, it is all my personal thoughts. You know, there's more Adria dealers around for a kick-off. Adria's will always sell a bit better because they're a bit more mainstream, and generally Adries have been round in the UK since 1970-71. So they've been at a long standard in the UK. So that would be my best bet. So I would say, for me, I would probably go for an Adria if I was going between the two. But then again, you may think different. Right, what was the next one? Trucker57 asked a question. He said, going from that accent, he said, you sound like you're from Lancashire. Well, he's quite correct, as we know. He thought Chorley Coppell. Well, obviously not. I'm just outside of Blackpool. A Sangronian, as he called us, home and bred, born and bred, should I say. Now, what he was saying about Coppell, he said, do you remember Barons? Do I remember Barons? Of course I do. Barons started off here in Blackpool, and eventually what happened was that they grew and expanded and had a place up at Standish, and that dealership is still there, but obviously not as Barons. That is Stuart Longton's the dealership. But I remember going up there in the early 70s as a kid and looking at all these caravans like A-Lines and Astrals and the early Swifts. And of course what happened then, Barons moved over to Southport. I think it was Gravel Lane they moved on to, and again I can remember going in the late 70s with my parents, and we went there, we were looking at, because my mum and dad fancied an Ace Award, but they eventually settled for an Eldest Mistral Jubilee, but Eldest Mistral Silver Jubilee, because Eldest did a special version of the Mistral for the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977 with tinted windows and Truma heater in and a fridge in, and spotlights no less. So that swayed them. And then Barons moved to Coppell, and that was about 4.5-5 acres, and eventually that went to about 7-8 acres. And I started going there in probably about 1984-85, and I eventually bought a caravan from them. I bought a brand new ABI Marauder 400 CT in 1987, and that was a cracking van. I towed that behind a 1.3 Astra car. I'm thinking of caravans again. And I remember my first deal. It was done at the Manchester show. That was in January 87, and I'd been looking at trophies, Avondale Pearls, Sprites, but I really did like the Marauders. I thought they were great. And what Barons did, a bit of a special, they sort of gave you reading lights, put a Truma heating, and put a mains electrics in with one socket. And I got to know a guy called Michael Old from there on, and me and Michael have we've had our ups and downs, mainly because when he started importing Airstream, I was never keen on Airstream, and I used to tell him that, and he didn't like it very much. And anyway, we're all good chums now, and Michael and I go back many years. And in fact, I've still got on my keyring a Dave Barron keyring, which was done in like a brushed aluminium, and that's been my keyring since 1987, and it's always gone on to each key of car that I've had. So yes, I remember Barons at Coppell, and they also had a place at Warrington as well, and eventually bought a place out at the Alberti dealership out at Darlington, which had caught fire, and I went to see. And somewhere I will have some photographs of that, because I remember seeing sort of bottled up caravans with the heat. And Bertree had been around for a long time. A very big dealership, very early Eldest dealership was Bertree. And Michael got into, he completely rebuilt the place, and I mean, he made a fantastic spot of it. It's now owned by Kimberley Caravans, so if you're up in that area, go and have a look. And Barons, though, sadly, I mean, they bought the Harrington's dealership at Cheshire, which had been a very old established dealership. I'd gone there a few times over the years. And then, of course, they sold out to Discover Group, and that was the end of it, really. And now stands there is a housing estate, which is very sad, because I spent many hours down at Barons doing magazine work, but also just out of pure, it's a lot of salesman and chat and find out a lot of things. Anyway, so that's that one. Trucker57, yes, I do come from Lancashire, but not area, and yes, I do know Coppell. Next one, Paul Bauer. classic restoration. Well, Paul, this is something I'd love to do. My only problem is, because I live in an area where nobody really restores classic caravans, and it would mean round trips. Now, I've got a friend of mine who's really good at restoring classic caravans, and he's got a couple, and we've had a couple of videos here on the channel. And at the moment he's got I've just dated a 73 Bailey Maestro for him, EK, which is an in-kitchen version, which is a bit more unusual than the normal run-of-the-mill layout that they sold. And also he's got a Bluebird. He's just picking up a we think it's about a 1959-60 Sprite Musketeer, so one of the very early ones. So I think he's going to try and restore that, but I'll go and have a quick look and I'll do my best on that one. So Paul, I'm looking on that one. Kevin Flood. Kevin and his good lady. Look, you two, you're in Ireland and you've been fantastic. You give me brilliant feedback, as a lot of people are doing. And I really do appreciate that. And actually, to be quite honest, Kevin he's come up with some quite good ideas. One of them is to do a dealer showground wander around. We've done a few of those and people seem to like it, and Kevin certainly does, and I enjoy doing it, and usually I'm getting chased off the dealership. So Kevin, thanks for that, and I'm going to do some more of those, that's for sure. Right, I'll have another quick look and see what else we've got. We have another little Q&A. This was also Michael Ward, I think it was, or Wade. I think it's Wade. Sorry there, Michael, I can't even read my own writing. Now, he suggested meeting up on a site. A few of us. Get your caravan out, he says, Andy, or big boys, he said. Must have been peeping. Yeah, that could be quite good fun. The way things are going at home at the moment, this is going to be hard. But it's something to think about, and we'd have to get a few of us together, people who want to watch, channel. He suggested Whitby. I think somewhere sort of a bit more central. I do like Whitby. I think it's a great spot. I love that area. I love the North York Moors. I used to go caravanning up there with my parents back in the very early 70s, and myself again in the 80s with my own caravan. So I've gotten a real long affection with that spot. So that's quite possible, really. It could be possible. I'll have to see how things are going back at the shack, as my dad used to say. And Colin Mu. Colin is another one of these guys who has given me so much support for this channel. How can I put it? It is very difficult. There's a lot of people out there doing this, as you know. And you know my thoughts on that. Some of them are just, I'm not even going to go into that way. But anyway, as a sort of a newish boy on the block, although I've been now 4 years on this channel, it is still quite difficult because, I'm not retired and having this as a little job to do. I'm trying to still earn a living, and it means magazine work, deadlines, books, and things. And and trying to do the videos as well. So, now it's like 10:30 at night. And, I've just been doing some features for Practical. So, anything like all of these, people really come on and say about this. And Colin's one of them. And he's a bit of a classic caravan fan. He sent me some great pictures. Because don't forget, you can message me on the Facebook page of Caravan Industry Expert. So you can directly message me and I'll always come back to you. So please do not be afraid to come on and ask me a question or whatever. I'll always try and do what I can. Sometimes because of, I'm so sort of busy, I can't always supply the information you want to, like a brochure shot of a caravan. Because I run a Facebook site called the Caravan Holiday Heritage Facebook site, and that's all static caravans, and the amount of people that come on and love that Facebook page, I put a lot of sort of old stuff on there. People also contribute to that, and a lot of people stopped in statics in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and of course in the 80s, and had some great times. But anyway, getting back to Colin, Colin wants to see how the Caravan Chassis has developed to the Alco chassis that we use today on modern caravans. Now, very interestingly, Caravan Chassis became very heavily, what I would call pretty heavily over-engineered. Lots of cross members, and suspension system was usually coil springs with a damper on in later years, but in the early years, of course, there were leaf spring. And I was looking at some 1920s Ettel stuff the other day, as you do, and the chassis was the same sort of design chassis as the Alco chassis 100 years later, and I was quite amazed about that. And I think I replied to Colin and said, look, you know, Colin, I think that's a great idea, because I think really what I'd like to do is probably do a bit of a stills video on chassis design and show everybody how it's changed and how chassis are obviously galvanised these days. But in the old days, you know, I can remember Dad, one of his jobs in wintertime, he's done his old work, his old woolly jumper and stuff, and he'd go underneath the caravan with his paintbrush and sandpaper and sand the chassis and repaint it all. And it was a pig of a job, because in those days we sort of stored the caravan on the street as you did, and I've noticed that's come back again a bit. Yeah, so the Caravan Chassis has developed quite a bit, but it's sort of gone full circle. But I'd love to do a video on that. So if anybody else thinks that, please let me know, and we'll go for it. Now, some Q&As there. Now, look, please do send some more. I'm open to them, especially on sort of particular caravan models and stuff and whatever. So one person brought up, and I can't remember the name, sorry again about this person there, had an Eldis 304, wouldn't have another one, about the front and back panels they'd had problems with. Now, I have heard this a lot. I mean, I think the caravans are pretty good caravans, but there are problems with the front and back panels at times. I know some people have had them and they've never had a problem. It's one of them. But they can crack, and when they crack, of course, they let water in, and of course that's a major job. So I always say, if you're looking at an Eldis, something like an Eldis 304 or one of the Eldis Explore ranges, especially the later ones, because the early ones had GRP panels, which were a lot tougher, which is what Swift use anyway. They use that, they don't use ABS. They use GRP, and one of the reasons is because they like the strength of it, and it's more rigid than the ABS, which tends to move around and it cracks it. So there, yes. So that's it really. Anything I've got to suggest? Anything I've got to say? Well, yes, I've been on the dealer forecourts a couple of weeks ago. Used stock seems to be going quite well. New stock, yeah, not too bad. A couple of big, large twin axle vans had been sold at a dealer. New stuff, which I was quite surprised. Because I thought that would sort of slow down a bit. I have been talking to a few people who are moaning about site fees going up. Now, as I say, I've not been on the site for a long time. And that's, I really miss it. And again, it's down to commitments and things with family and lots of change of circumstances. And this does happen. I'm lucky my caravan isn't sat in the driveway with the tyres down and green moss on the roof, or on a caravan storage where the tyres are down again and it's looking forlorn. It's in the garage, it's just dusty, it'll soon wash off. Just open the windows, put the heater on, and it's back up and firing. That's one of the good things, I suppose, that I do like about having it undercover and literally on my premises. So yeah, now I'm hoping to bring some more videos. As I say, there's been a few matters that have been a bit of concern here, so I've been a bit restricted, plus as well some magazine article stuff. But also, I'm hoping this week to go to Leisure Drive. Leisure Drive Campervans have been around for over 50 years. I think I did their history for them a couple of years ago. 2019 actually, because it was 2019 was their 50th anniversary. Derek Andrews, who runs it, is a real character. He's passionate passionate about his camper vans and passionate about legislation and getting it all right. Because there's a lot of camper van converters out there, which has been spawned by, of course, the demand. Personally, don't forget, if you've got one of these and you come to trade it into a dealership, a dealer will not give you the amount of money that you probably thought you'd get for it as a branded conversion, basically. You know, Fred down the road, he may have done a fantastic job, but at the end of the day, it's not a branded camper van such as New Venture, etc. So I'm hoping to do a review on theirs, and if I can, I'll pop the video up. As I say, I want to get to a couple of used caravan dealerships. I might get to Longton's if I can. I'll just have to see how I'm running on Wednesday with this review on the Leisure Drive Vertel. I can't remember which model as well now. As well, they were saying they've chopped and changed around, but anyway, they're right now like this one. Camper vans, well, we don't do many camper vans on this channel, but I mean, I'm not a big camper van fan, only because for me personally it doesn't work as it will do for you maybe, and that's fine. And vice versa, you know, caravan is not everybody's dreams and expectations, so consequently camper vans are not my exact cup of tea, but I do appreciate what people find in them and the manufacturing that goes in them, you know, and I do like them to look at and drive, because they drive superbly, you know, on the new transits and things. So, you know, and they have that place where, you know, you can be up and gone and also use as an everyday vehicle. So the camper van is very, very interesting, because that reminds me, I've probably told you so, forgive me if I have, I'm actually doing a story of the camper van book. So I should have had that done actually, but I haven't. Again, pressing matters at home. And my Motorhome Illustrated one as well, my visual one. So I'm running really behind. So anybody's waiting for those, I'm sorry about that. It's things have been just a bit hectic. But anyway, yeah, the history of the camper van is an interesting one. So that's why I'm writing it, I suppose. Right, okay, look, thanks for watching the vlog. Thanks for all your comments. Please keep them coming in. Please come up with suggestions. Always pleased to hear things. And if you find an old caravan, because, you know, on your storage compound or whatever, by all means, take a photograph. Come on to the Facebook page, Caravan Industry Expert. And, you know, if you can send me a picture, that's great, and I'll come up with it on the video, on the vlog, and tell you, say, you know, Fred's found this 1972 Sprite Alpine or whatever. And just before I go, very, very quickly, I've got to go and see a 1974 Castleton Rowena. Now, that is, I think it's a Reno or Ravana, I can't remember which one out now. Because people come to me about caravans, and I'm sort of like, oh, you get all mixed up. This has been put up at the National Trust at Fellfoot in the Lake District, and it's there for the season, and I've been given permission to video it, and I'll give you some of the history, and I've supplied a lot of the information that they wanted for the caravan actually. So brochure, that sort of thing, price, weights and everything, what in 1974 that would have been like and cost and that type of thing. So yes, I'll be doing a video on that. So that's a classic caravan, which I just get excited about the old stuff. I do about the new stuff as well. But yeah, so look, tell me, you know, keep me up to date on your findings, etc. Please do contact me, and thank you to everybody subscribing. I've had quite a few subscribers come online this last week, and I think that's fantastic. And please share the videos, you know, tell your friends about them. If they don't know, you know, say that Jenkinson guy, he's a bit of a big head, thinks he knows it all, but, you know, hey, he's a bit of a, you know, you can have a bit of a laugh with him, and, you know, he can laugh at himself. I usually do. Right, okay, so I'm going to cut you loose, and I shall see you on the next video or vlog or whatever. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everybody, and happy caravanning.